We're live. How you going? Hello, Wolfpack. Another live stream today. Let me see if this is working quickly. I'll just look at my phone. Once again, guys, second monitor is completely broken, and so I'm using my phone for the chart. I need to get that sorted out. I'm thinking instead of buying another monitor, I might just get my iPad out and hook that up and set it up there, and that could work quite well as a kind of second monitor here. Because honestly, I don't really like desktops too much. They take up a bit too much space, and they're not very portable. And when I go away, and I do go away, I like to have that portability, and I don't have a laptop currently, and so I need to look into getting one of those. And even an iPad would work, just so I can keep up with the market while I'm away, instead of hauling around this 20 kilogram desktop with me. But regardless of that, guys, we're here, another live stream today. Like usual, make sure to drop in some of your questions that you might have about the market. Happy to answer those for you. It gives me something to talk about as well, because I can't just talk about Bitcoin and Ethereum for multiple hours, but I could try. I do like talking about Bitcoin and Ethereum because, as you guys would know, and as I've said in my last live stream, they are very much the market movers. And if something is the market mover, analyzing that thing is the same thing as analyzing everything else in a certain sense. So let me read the chat here for a second. Hold on one second. Let me get this up. How you going? Yeah, how you going, guys? What's up? What's up to you, mate? I'm going pretty well. Don Ragnar. I don't know why that took me so long to read. Don Ragnar asked, when do you reckon BTC will hit the 200-week SMA? All right, so before we get into that, for those of you who potentially could be new to this stream, now I wouldn't suggest that would be many of you, because live streams are typically within the audience. They're quite isolated within the audience. You don't really pick up too many new people from live streaming. However, my prediction, just to go over it again on a longer term scale, is that Bitcoin will head downwards towards the 200-week SMA, which is this green line here. Okay, and that's what Don is referring to. So when do I think that's going to happen? Well, there's lots of different theories as to when that's going to happen. The best thing I can give you as kind of a guideline is my chart on Bitstamp. All right, this is my Bitstamp chart, and we'll go to the daily, and we can kind of get an outlook of when I think that might happen. Now, if I was to bring up the 200-week SMA, actually, let's just do it quickly. Let's delete, say, the 9 EMA, and let's just bring up a moving average here on the daily chart. Let's change that over to the 200. One moment. Change it over to 200, and we'll put it on the weekly, and we'll make it green like usual. This is how I usually have it, all right? So this is the 200-week SMA on the daily chart. Now, these are the two scenarios that I see as probable for Bitcoin, okay? The yellow scenario is that it keeps going within this downwards channel formation, keeps bouncing around within the channel, and it ultimately bottoms out on the 200-week SMA in March, okay? That is scenario one. And that is the scenario in which we don't break the current trend, because the current trend has been in place since around mid-November, okay? So that is scenario one. We bottom out on the 200-week SMA in March, okay? Scenario two is we break to the upside of this channel, and that would kind of go in line with a dead cat bounce theory. We break to the upside of a channel. We've retest 48K, which is our critical breaker. We fail to break above it, right? And by that time we get there, 48K would be harnessing some things like the bull market support band, which I don't have. Here it is right now. So the bull market support band will be in that region, will act as resistance there. We'll reject off of that, and then we'll head downwards towards the 200-week, and we'll reach that 200-week in a very wide range between April and November, okay? Now, the reason why I can't be more precise for the second scenario, on the first scenario, the yellow scenario, I can be very precise. It's going to happen in March, okay? The reason why I can't be more precise on the second scenario, the orange scenario, is because we have conflicting data coming in from the daily chart, but we also have data coming in from the Bitcoin index, right? And that is this chart here. Let me bring this up. This chart is basically a chart that goes over the long-term history of Bitcoin. So it basically, all of the price action that's ever happened with Bitcoin that's been recorded is on this chart. Now, we have a trend forming on this chart, and this is part of the 4-year cycle, in which we're seeing 1,400 days from top to top, 1,400 days from top to top again, and then same thing from bottom to bottom, so 1,400 days from bottom to bottom, and then 1,400 days from bottom to bottom again. And then we're also seeing another trend within that trend of from bottom to top in 2015 to 2017, 1,064 days, and then the same thing here from bottom to top between 2018 and last year's bull market, 1,064 days. And so if this trend was to continue, what we could assume is that Bitcoin will take 1,400 days and bottom out in November. Okay, so that is the conflicting evidence. We have the evidence from a daily chart, which would suggest that, hey, I don't think, it's not going to take 10 months to get to the bottom. But then we have this long-term trend that is probably more concrete that would say it's going to take until November. So the reason why I think we're seeing such a distancing between these two scenarios in terms of what seems logical is that the drop has been accelerated quite quickly here on Bitcoin with the stock market correction. Stocks have been plummeting, right, massively. They've completely diverted from their original trend, and we'll talk about stocks later in this. They've completely diverted from their original trend, which was basically only upwards, and they've started correcting quite substantially. And so that's not good to see for Bitcoin, because Bitcoin, unfortunately, like I talked about yesterday, some of you would have watched the video titled "The Biggest Problem of Crypto." Bitcoin is very much correlated to the stock market. Okay, and if the stock market is correcting like it's been doing, and that's due to fears of interest rates rising, which would bring the market down, then you're going to see Bitcoin correcting massively, and the drop has been sped up quite massively because of that. And so that November prediction based off the 4-year cycle theory might be invalidated in this scenario, and we might actually reach that sooner than expected. So to answer your question, the soonest in which we could reach the 200 is March. And the latest in which we could reach the 200, according to my predictions, is November. I would probably favor the March scenario, possibly April or May, right? Something like that. Within the next probably 3 or 4 months, I think we'll get there. I would be surprised if we don't have some sort of bounce upwards out of a channel. Let's bring it up again. But honestly, how surprised can you be? I mean, this has been going on for a while now, and so the trend is your friend until it ends. I don't think we should be, jumping back in the market, looking for a dead cat bounce, because we could have done that back here and we would have lost money. We could have done it here, we would have lost money. And we probably could have done it here and we would have lost money as well. So once again, the trend is your friend until it ends. So if we break that channel, that's when we can start talking about, break this channel here at 40K. That's when we can start talking about moving upwards to 48K, right? Until then, I don't think it's really a logical thing to do. So let me read some more questions here. Can you look at Rose and Poct? Yeah, I will look at those. Team showing here support. Whale team, how are you going? Yeah, big fan of Mega Whale. We work very closely, as you guys would know. Good to be back. Thanks, mate. Would you agree the Russell Index is correlated to crypto? I'll look at that in a second as well. I thought your biggest problem about crypto video was awesome. Thank you. I can go over that briefly as well, if you guys would like me to go over that. So yeah, I'll look at Rose in a second. But my biggest problem with crypto, this is an interesting video I did yesterday, right? So what is the biggest problem that I find with crypto? What is the biggest problem in cryptocurrency right now? Okay. I went over this yesterday, and a lot of people would say things like, as I've clarified in that video, like, oh, theft or regulation, or, the energy crisis that's going on, how, it uses a lot of energy. But no, I wouldn't agree with any of those things, right? I think that theft exists in whatever financial system you're going to have. So does fraud, right? The energy crisis thing, I think that's a little bit over-exaggerated, especially when you're considering the utility of Bitcoin and how the fiat system is literally collapsing beneath us. I think that kind of goes as a secondary issue. There's lots of other things we could cut down on energy on rather than Bitcoin, which is basically humanity's best hope, in my opinion. But what is the biggest problem with cryptocurrency right now? I think that the biggest problem with crypto right now in the current state of the market in 2022 is that there is a severe lack of people having the conviction to long-term invest. Due to the volatility of the cryptocurrency market, right? Volatility of everything. Due to the volatility of the cryptocurrency market, it encourages traders rather than investors. A volatile market naturally encourages traders rather than investors, right? And so when you have an abundance of traders, you have an abundance of people who are going to be reacting to things actively. And this is when the correlation to the stock market, like we've seen in recent months, takes a very negative turn, okay? Because you get a bunch of people, and the vast majority of people, looking for signs that Bitcoin is going to drop before it actually drops. One of the key things to look at in that scenario would be the stock market, right? If someone sees that in pre-market hours, the stock market is down 2%, they might be inclined to think that, hey, Bitcoin is going to go down, and hence they sell their Bitcoin. Okay, and that would lead to a reaction, and that ultimately leads, if enough people do it, it leads to a correlation between Bitcoin and the stock market. Now, the problem with that is Bitcoin is not meant to be correlated to the stock market. Bitcoin is meant to be an individual asset. It's meant to do what it does in most scenarios, okay? That is the goal of Bitcoin. As I've said, it's in the white paper. It's in the white paper for Bitcoin to be a completely individual asset. It's meant to be a hedge against other markets. In fact, if anything, it should be reverse correlated. If the stocks go down, it should go up, right? That is how it should be. However, due to the high volatility of Bitcoin and cryptocurrency as a whole, traders flock to it because they see it as an easy way to profit in a volatile market, because as you guys would know, more volatility means more opportunity, but also more risk. But mostly for traders, how they see it is more opportunity. Okay, and when you get that abundance of traders, when you get the excessive amount of traders, you get them reacting to things that otherwise wouldn't be of effect. Okay, and the only way for us to move forward past this and get more long-term investors is more adoption. And the main problem is adoption is difficult when the volatility is so high, right? Obviously, if the market cap grows and more people get interested in cryptocurrency, volatility is going to go down. And when volatility goes down, people are more interested in long-term investing rather than trading because they see less potential in the market. So the biggest problem with Bitcoin, the biggest problem with cryptocurrency also has a clear solution. Okay, and that solution is time, because Bitcoin and cryptocurrency are being adopted at an exponential rate, right? You only need to look at 2021 to see how fast they're being adopted. I mean, 2021 changed crypto forever. Whether it's for the better or for the worse is a big question, but in terms of adoption, it was definitely for the better. Okay, and when you see that adoption, you see the volatility go down. We can even see it just by looking at this cycle and the last cycle. Right? I don't know if I'm going to do it now. Yeah, let's do it now, actually. I mean, this last cycle here, if I was on the logarithmic, you can see the kind of angle of which this appreciated, and there was no big correction. There was no big July shakeout like there was in this cycle. This just went straight up, right? And that's because at the time it was driven by significant retail interest in the market, right? Without the ability of being flushed out by manipulators. Okay, right now we don't have that anymore. We have the institutions, we have the adoption, and hence we have the ability to be manipulated and flushed out on a mass scale, and that's going to lead to decreased sentiment. Okay, and kind of, you'd almost say an abundance of long-term investors, because people see that, hey, trading this yearly price action in 2021 was a terrible idea. You would have got chopped up, right, for most people at least. And so they would be more inclined, if they believed in Bitcoin's fundamentals, to long-term invest. And that's just a step in the right direction. So there is proof already that adoption is having a positive effect on Bitcoin in terms of converting a lot of people from traders to investors. And that's what we need to be seeing. In order for Bitcoin to move forward, just to summarize, in order for Bitcoin to move forward, we need more investors, because then we can distance ourselves from the actions of other financial markets. All right, let's look at the rows quickly. We will look at Bitcoin and Ethereum at some point. Let's look at rows. I don't know if this is going to be on trade. Yeah, it is on TradingView. I haven't heard of this one, mate, so fresh analysis here on rows. Let me bring up some indicators, see what I can find. Gaussian channel, yeah, okay. We've got the VVPR, sure thing. Just quickly scanning through, that's good to see. All right, so there's a few things here we can talk about on rows. All right, and first and foremost, I don't know anything about the fundamentals of this coin. First and foremost, though, let me go ahead and draw up. This is 2021 here. So this is the entire bull market on rows here. It looks like it's a new coin. I don't know anything about this coin. I haven't looked at it before, but let me draw up the major support on rows using a rectangular box. We have the July correction that brought us down to the zone between around 50 cents and around 40 cents. So that is a major support block. We could even kind of drag that down a little bit more here and bring it in that region there. So that is the major support block for rows on a macro structure, right? All of this price action in which has been trending upwards is very, very, very recent on a larger scale. Given the length of this coin has been around, this is the major support. This is kind of like almost the bear market bottom, even though it didn't see a bear market. And so if we do see something drastic, this is where I would expect the coin to retrace to. And this is all the way down here in a 5 to 3 cent region. Now, it is worth noting that although I don't know anything about the fundamentals of this coin, and it could be bloody amazing, everyone and their dads could be using it, what I do know is that new coins have a tendency to retrace further than old coins because they have a lack of time in order to, they don't have as much time to build a sharp, strong community, and hence people are less reliant in holding it for the long run. Okay. But what we can see here in Rose, and I assume this is probably why you're looking at it, right, is an uptrending line. And this is a bullish uptrending line for sure. There's no debate about that. It's good to see. And we can even shift it up to something like that. That's probably how I draw the line. We've had a few wicks here and a wick below. But I'd draw it like this. And I'd assume one of the reasons you're looking at Rose right now, and maybe not, but I'd assume is because we're testing this uptrending line currently, okay? And that's good to see. It's good to see someone who's looking at the longer term scale, right? This line has been forming since probably around August. We could even probably draw it all the way back here, couldn't we? And say it's been forming since July, and hence, if you're not interested in Rose here, it pays a good buck to be attentive to it, right? Because when you see these long-term uptrending lines and you see a price bouncing off the bottom of it, that's a free trade. It happened here in August. We bounced off the bottom of the line. It was just forming at that point, but we bounced up. And what do? We bounced up, say, probably 266%. We did it back here again in November. We bounced up 175%. We've done it here in late December, even when Bitcoin was correcting, and we bounced up a massive 150%. And so you have to ask the question, if the trend is your friend until it ends, will Rose bounce again off of this line, and will the trend continue? And the evidence, by what I'm seeing, is there to suggest that might happen. Okay? Now, before I even say anything else, right, because I know some people here would be jumping for joy with me saying that, I'm not interested in trading anything right now. I'm not trading one single thing, right? I think that the market is going down. I don't care what the altcoin is. It's not a good habit to get into to trade against the market. Even if the coin like Rose right now looks pretty strong, it's not a good habit to get into, right? And so before kind of saying more, I'd say I wouldn't be personally trading this right now. And if I would be trading it, I would trade it with a very tight stop loss. Okay, we've seen one wick to the downside below this support line in the entirety of the support line's existence, and that wicked from around 23 cents to 20 cents. What you'll notice is that wasn't a fake out, right? That wasn't a fake out. That was actually just a test of the bull market support band. And so given this information, I would set my stop loss if I was going to trade Rose at around 27 cents, just below the 20-week SMA, below the bull market support band. And so that would give us a risk on Rose right now. If you bought in right now at current prices, that would give you a risk of around 11 to 12%. Okay, so you're looking at 11 to 12% risk for historically, based on what we've been doing off of this bouncing, we're looking at 11 to 12% risk for at least 100% gain. And so on paper, that looks like a perfect trade. And so Rose doesn't look too bad here. Looking at the RSI and MACD, we're at quite a big risk here. I think we have already been seeing a bearish divergence on RSI, and so it is worth noting that, hey, although it looks good in the short term here, although it looks good for one more bounce, the trend is not sustainable and it won't keep bouncing forever. And so that's why we have the stop loss. It's literally telling us in the chart that it looks all right now, but just know you can't do this forever. That is literally what Rose is telling us right now. And so that trend is unsustainable, but it could happen again, could bounce again for sure. As for Ichimoku Cloud, we've dropped below that, which is something we haven't really seen in our time holding this line. Gaussian channel, we've dropped below that, which again is something we haven't really seen in holding this line. We saw it once over here actually, back in around October. Looking at, say, one more thing here, the 50 and the 200 day, we've actually come down and we've rejected off the 50 day. The reason why this isn't super concerning from what I looked at before is because we've done this before in this region here. We've dropped below it a few times, and so if we drop below it this time, it's not really something we haven't done before. Now, do I think that it's significantly riskier buying into Rose now on this retest than it was on the last retest? Yes, I do, right? Because it's telling us on the RSI the trend is unsustainable. And so each time you take this trade on the support line, your probability of success is decreasing rapidly because the trend is becoming more and more unsustainable, more and more unsupported by buyers. Let's look at volume right now. We can see that on volume here, volume is also decreasing on the pumps, right? Our first pump, we had massive volume. Second one, we had decent volume. The third one, we had pretty abysmal volume. And now on this one, it's a big question mark, right? I would expect that trend to continue. I would expect the volume to continue going down. So my verdict on Rose would be, it could very well bounce again. Set a tight stop loss if you're going to trade it, right? But if it bounces again, don't expect it to bounce again after that, because this trend is very unsustainable, but as of right now, there's no immediate signs that it won't do another bounce. So I'll actually like to see what happens on Rose there. I'll save this chart and I'll come back to it because it should be interesting to see. Let's look at another one here and then we'll get into Bitcoin. We've got... Could you do an Ethereum breakdown, please, bud? For sure, mate. I'll do an Ethereum breakdown very shortly in this live stream. Don't worry about that. XRP. Sure, we can do some XRP here. And then we'll probably jump into Bitcoin. And then don't worry, I'll try to get to every single comment I can. Speaking a lot makes your voice kind of croaky, doesn't it? Far out. Okay. XRP, I'll hang in there. XRP is looking interesting. Just like most coins here. I think everything looks interesting, to be honest, right now, because bear markets are not something we see very often. And when you see a bear market, generally, it's going to look pretty interesting. Okay, but I don't really like the look of XRP in this cycle and what it's done. Now, look, I don't keep up with the recent XRP news. Is the lawsuit over? You guys can go ahead and let me know there. I don't think it is. I think there would have been a massive news outburst if the lawsuit was in fact over. I don't think the lawsuit's over at this point, but it's been dragging on for a long time. In fact, it's been dragging on for this entire bull market. I think it started probably here in December 2020, and we had this big correction here. And so, look, there's definitely one big thing you need to consider before you even consider investing in XRP, and that is what's going to happen with the lawsuit. Ronco, I've just seen your donation, mate, and I'll get to that in a second. Nice question. Yeah, I'll get to that in a second, mate. Yeah, so we've got XRP. And, we've got this previous high we made here before the correction in the lawsuit. And we're actually using that as support right now, which is interesting. Okay. And that support block is massive. It's massive. And it's coming from a region. And from what I can see, it's coming all the way from a region of 77 cents all the way to 43 cents. And if we wanted to narrow it down, we could also bring it all the way up to around 50 cents where this July bottom is. So 77 cents to 50 cents, you'd be thinking, hey, that's a major support block. That's a massive support block. How do you know that's going to continue happening? Because that's a big zone you've just outlined there, Wolves. Yeah, I agree it is, but that's what I'm seeing on the chart, and that's what I'm going to stick by right here on XRP. And what I'm seeing is, as well, based on what I've drawn before, is an uptrending line of which we've broken. And just straight off the bat, I can tell you XRP doesn't look good right now. Okay, we've bounced off of this line multiple times. We saw a couple fake outs here. It was all good though. Nothing really happened too significantly. And we've actually dropped below this line, come back, rejected off of it. So that's a retest of a downside. And we've dropped down massively from that point. So XRP doesn't look good right now on a longer term scale. What I will say is that we're undervalued on the RSI. We're coming in for a bullish MACD cross. But this is like a lot of coins right now, including Bitcoin. It doesn't mean it's going to happen immediately. It doesn't mean anything's going to happen immediately. Volume in comparison to what was going on in 2020, abysmal, right? There's basically no volume here on XRP. Not many people are trading this right now, which is interesting because it's still relatively high on the market cap ranking. Very high on the market cap ranking. But in terms of every indicator I can give you, everything I'm giving you right now is telling you that XRP is in a strong downwards trend. Literally everything I just brought up. They're all above the price action. That means that XRP has a lot of resistance ahead. Right? If it's going to go up, it's going to have a lot of resistance to break through. And I don't like the look of that. I don't like investing in coins that have a lot of resistance. Now, what is a probable scenario? Well, I think that will probably just come down and probably just retest 50 cents at this point. Will it happen immediately? Maybe not. We might have consolidation before that happens. We might even retest the top of a support and reject off of that at 77. But I think 50 cents is definitely the medium-term target. I think we'll be there within a month. We'll be at 50 cents on XRP. So no, I don't necessarily like the look of XRP right now. Let's look at the weekly chart quickly because I know XRP has a pretty strong weekly chart. And yeah, look, it's all about perspective, right? So if you look at XRP in the daily chart, it looks abysmal. If you look at it in a weekly chart, you take a different perspective to it. It doesn't look, it looks okay, and it looks as though the macro structure is still holding. As you can see, this green box I've drawn on my daily chart is very prominent throughout the history of XRP, and we're currently holding that. If we drop below 50 cents, XRP is going straight to bear market prices, regardless of what happens with the lawsuit. The TA is more important, so I'll say that again. If we drop below 50 cents on XRP, we're going straight to bear market prices. This is the macro support we need to be holding. Drop below 50 cents, not looking good for XRP at all. Okay. What's your favorite beer? Well, look, I'm going to have to tell you, mate, I don't really drink too much beer. If I did drink beer, and I do on occasion, it would be Cooper's, right? Big fan of Cooper's. Other than that, though, I've never been a beer fan. I've been more of a spirits fan. Okay, and with that, I'll just go with the classic whiskey. And none of that Jack Daniels. I'm talking, bit higher quality stuff. Even for my age, a lot of people would consider me a bit of a whiskey connoisseur, but I don't know. That might be an exaggeration there, mate, but I don't know. I'm not a beer fan. I've never really flocked to the taste too much. I've always found it a little bit, I don't know how to explain it, a bit strong from the ones I've had before. I'm not a big drinker though, so who knows. But looking at, thanks for the donation though, mate. You've donated a few times now. I really appreciate that support for sure. Glad to have you in the live streams as well. Hope I'm giving you some valuable information, Ronco. If you got any questions, mate, I'll answer them straight away for you. So what were we looking at? That was a really good video. I feel long-term investors are coming this year when we switch from fiat to digital currency worldwide. Yeah, I agree. I don't know if that's happening this year, but I agree that central bank digital currencies, which is what the governments are pushing for, will subconsciously, or whatever the word would be, kind of inadvertently push crypto into people's faces, because they'll be looking at these central bank digital currencies and they'll be thinking, wait a second, this is just crypto with the centralization. It's just crypto, but slightly worse because it's centralized and controlled. It doesn't really make sense. And I think a lot of people would wake up to that fact and they'd start investing in things like Bitcoin and things like that. Do you think there's a chance Bitcoin getting low enough, say 30k, that it causes an altcoin boom regardless of what happens to Bitcoin after? I'm wondering if whales will dump their Bitcoin for altcoins. I don't think you'll see... When you talk about whales, I don't think you'll see institutions do that. Institutions don't care about altcoins, right? They just care about a long-term investment and manipulating that long-term investment, making as much money as possible. But in terms of whales, well, I'd say that in order to rephrase your question for you, when we see the bear market bottom, we will see an interest in altcoins, and we will see altcoins recover faster than Bitcoin. The only problem is only a few of them will. Most of them will die. Okay, most of them will die because most of them don't have actual utility. Right, only the ones that have utility will survive. I'll look at Ethereum in a sec, as I've said. When does Wolf subscription flip Ben Cohen? Probably never, mate. I mean, that guy, Ben, all respect to Ben, everything about Ben I like about him. I like watching his videos myself, but he doesn't really, have any diversity with his content. And I think even people who watch him would agree with me there. He just kind of posts about the bull market support band 2 times a week, 10-minute videos. Well, I speak about the bull market support band in literally a minute. I like him though. He's a great bloke, I can tell, and he's got a good personality, and he definitely offers something. He's definitely one of the biggest proponents of lengthening cycles, and I enjoy watching other opinions, but I think that his content is a bit extended. That might be part of his personality. I feel the same with Crypto Jeb subscribers. They are exhausting. Yeah, look, Crypto Jeb's something I haven't really looked into him too much in the past. I've watched his live streams. I don't mind Crypto Jeb, at least he's out here giving actual technical analysis. I'd say he's much better than a lot of the crypto YouTubers who just kind of just ramble about random things and how this coin's going to 100x and give you $1 million. At least Crypto Jeb's actually out there and giving out technical analysis, which is great to see. I may not agree with most of his opinions, but giving TA is the first step. At what point do you think we could see a decoupling between Bitcoin and Ethereum and alts? I think that would take something flipping Bitcoin. I don't think Bitcoin's going to decouple from Ethereum and alts without something flipping it. May you do TA on HBAR? Yeah, I could look at HBAR in a second. First of all, I'll look at HBAR in a second, I promise you there. And I will leave the comment there. Zachary, you're next, mate. But as for the actual fundamental analysis here, and I looked at Bitcoin briefly before at the start of this live stream, 28 people, how are you going? But we're going to look at Bitcoin. Right, Bitcoin, because we haven't done a Bitcoin analysis. Keeping it brief today, we did a big analysis yesterday, lots to cover there, and so we've probably covered most of it at this point, but let me see what I can see here in the volume first and foremost before I get into it. Okay, so what I'm seeing here on Bitcoin, guys, 26 minutes until the daily candle close. I don't think much is going to change until that point. What I'm seeing here on Bitcoin is when this daily candle closes green, we're going to see a bullish MACD cross, okay? And that begs the question, looking at my 2 charts that I have in Bitcoin, that begs the question, will we see a breakout of this wedge? And on my other chart, and this is probably the chart I want to look at more, will we see a breakout of this channel? Okay, so the bullish MACD cross is good to see. However, we don't have any bullish divergence. We don't have anything really. We have volume kind of going to be closing at the same it was yesterday, and so we're not having increasing volume at this point. And nothing really is telling us that, hey, this move is very, very strong and we need to be getting in right now. We're going to miss 10% gains. The move is not going to be strong, okay? I think that, as I've said yesterday, I think that if we do break upwards here past this wedge, I think the highest we can go is 48k, okay? 48k, if we break above that, we're bullish again. I've spoke about that before, and let's just look at it briefly again for people who haven't looked at it. if we break above 48k, we're breaking above Ikomoku Cloud, we're breaking above bull market support band, we're breaking above the 50 and the 200 day as well. And so we'll also be breaking above the 50 week if we brought up the weekly chart. So breaking above 48k will basically make us bullish on Bitcoin again and basically make me target new all-time highs. But I don't think we're going to be doing that at this point. I think we've got a long way to go. In fact, we haven't even retested 40k yet. Okay, and what is the logical move in technical analysis is when you drop below a support zone, you come back and you retest it and then you drop further. Okay, and so based off logic, I think we will be retesting 40k at some point. And whether that happens today, whether it happens next week, that's for interpretation. But I think 40k is going to be retested. That said, am I confident enough to jump in the market for a quick swing trade while that happens? No, because I don't trade against the trend, right? Even as an investor, even as a day trader who's been trading like on a daily basis, short-term time frames, if the trend is very, very strong to the downside, I don't see a point in trading that, okay? And I'm seeing a strong trend to the downside. Now, with volume decreasing or stabilizing, it looks as though there's not many buyers to support this move. Now, let's look at the volume profile, okay? Volume profile is basically how I like to think of it. Let's delete everything here so you guys can see it clearly. Is this orange thing on the side here. How I like to think of the volume profile is they're like hills and valleys, okay? So if you're on a low point, like a valley of the volume profile, like you would be if you were down here between 40k and 45k, you're in a valley, and hence running up the hill is going to be very hard, running down the hill is going to be very hard. You're in an area of contention. You're in an area in which it's kind of like no one really knows what's going to happen. Right now, we are at the top of the hill. And so if we move upwards even the slightest bit more towards 40k, okay, we will very likely be retesting 40k to 41k because we'll run down this hill to 41k, okay? And then at that point, we'll be in another point of contention. And if we get to 40k, we'll probably be drifting towards 45.5k to 40k, and then we will need to attack the POC at 47. Okay, I hope that made sense. It's pretty complicated. The point is, in order for Bitcoin to make actual progress, it needs to retake the POC, which is the biggest mountain on the volume profile. That is at 47k, and hence I'm rounding that up to 48k, right? Because 48k is the actual resistance zone in terms of static resistance. So right now, what I'm seeing on Bitcoin is that there is a very strong potential if we go even slightly higher that we'll be retesting 40k. But from that point, I don't think we're going to have enough strength to break even higher than that. So let's go ahead and bring that chart back up. And we can go ahead and look at the weekly chart because I identified quite a new pattern that I hadn't really seen before in the weekly chart. Let's go to the Gemini because I brought it up on Gemini, I'm pretty sure. I don't use Gemini very much at all here. But Gemini is showing me something pretty interesting from previous cycles. One second, let me go to logarithmic. And we can see from the previous all-time high, which is in 2017, if we drew a line from the previous all-time high all the way through the May corrections and touched it on the July bottom, we can see that right now Bitcoin is retesting that support line. Now, support lines on the logarithmic scale should be taken with a grain of salt, I will say that. But they should be considered nevertheless. We've retested this in February, retested it from May to July, and we're retesting it right now. We've wicked it, and we've had a strong candle to the upside. So this support line might hold. It's worth considering. Now, looking at my other chart here, and for those of you who haven't been watching this video, this live stream the whole time, because I know a lot of people tuned in late. We only had 10 viewers when I discussed this. Now, I just want to go over it briefly again. Sorry to people who have already seen it. I'm just going to go over it briefly again. What my scenario is in Bitcoin, what my two scenarios are in Bitcoin, is either this yellow scenario, which would imply the trend just keeps going downwards, right? The yellow scenario, the trend continues, we continue in this channel, and we just chop downwards slowly until we reach the bottom in March, okay, on the 200-week SMA. The other scenario is we break this to the upside, this trend. Now, it could happen here, all right? It could happen here. Who knows? It could happen anywhere. But the other scenario is we take this orange scenario and we break this channel to the upside. We see a dead cat bounce. We reject off of 48k. Okay, and I think that rejection is going to come around the time we have the Federal Reserve talk in March, right, in which they're going to raise interest rates. When they do raise interest rates, we're going to see a collapse in the financial markets, right, the stock market. We're going to see a collapse or at least a big correction. It's going to drag Bitcoin down away from this critical resistance, and we're going to drop down towards the 200-week, and we're going to reach that between April and November. Now, as I've said before, and I'll say it again just for the people who are new, and hang in there, people who have seen me analyze before I'll be out of this in a second. The reason why I don't have an exact time frame for the second scenario And the reason why the first scenario I'm saying March and the second scenario I'm saying April to November is because this trend in the 4-year cycle would suggest it's going to take 1,400 days to reach the bottom in November. And that trend is being from top to top 1,400, from top to top 1,400 again, from bottom to bottom 1,400, and from bottom to bottom 1,400 again, okay? The trend suggests we're going to be reaching it in November, whereas the daily chart and the TA suggests we're going to be reaching it as early as April, and so we're putting a big range there. If we break out, let me clarify, if we break out of this channel, right, this channel here, bring it up, if we break out of this channel, we're going to see the bottom, right, like break to the upside. If we break out to the upside, we're going to be seeing the bottom between April and November. If we continue within this channel, the bottom will be in March. That is my prediction for Bitcoin, okay? And I hope that's more clear than what I said it like before. Okay, so we'll look at Ethereum next. Before we look into Ethereum, let's jump into some questions. I said I'd analyze H-bar. Let's get into that right now. H-bar. A lot of people like H-bar for some reason. I like H-bar too, based on the fundamentals. You know, I do like it. I had a chart here that I drew up for H-bar recently on a recent live stream about a week ago. But I've deleted it, evidently. And so we'll have to look at it again. I wonder if this support line actually still holds. Hold on one second. Let me try something. I wonder if this line here would actually still hold true. Kind of does. Okay, so H-bar has a support line that I've just kind of determined. And it's looking something like that. Okay, I haven't looked at this before. But it's something like that. And we can see this line has been pretty critical throughout the entire 2021 period in H-bar. Now, H-bar fundamentals, I don't know if I said it just then, I can't remember. But H-bar fundamentals, I like. I like them a lot, okay? It's the TA that kind of gets me a little bit iffy. It's not necessarily the TA, it's for tokenomics, okay? H-bar, the last time I looked at it, I wish I could bring it up in this live stream, but I can't without leaking my information. H-bar has interesting tokenomics. H-bar doesn't have a large proportion of its total supply in circulation right now. And that means investing in H-bar, you're investing against H-bar, and you're also investing against the charts, right? Because the more circulating supply that is brought into circulation, the more supply that is brought into circulation throughout the lifespan of H-bar, the more kind of devalued this coin is going to get. So let me just kind of clarify that, okay? So right now here, say for example on H-bar, and this is a fact, I don't know the exact number, we had 10 million coins in circulation in this circle. And here, we had 20 million coins in circulation in this circle. That would mean that the market cap had doubled, and if the tokenomics were the same in October as they were in April, the price would have doubled. But due to the tokenomics releasing a massive amount of supply into circulation, it's been devalued, right? And you're essentially investing against H-bar tokenomics when you're investing in H-bar. And so, look, when that's cleared up and when the circulating supply is more, like we're looking at 80%, 100%, that's when you'd be investing in H-bar. But as of right now, you're working against the tokenomics and the TA. But what we can see in H-bar is this support line here, or this line that we're holding for support currently. I don't think we looked at it last time. Let me bring up a few indicators here. We can see we've rejected off the bull market support band a few times, which is not good to see. Volume profile is suggesting that basically everywhere is an area of support because H-bar is a big chop, just like Bitcoin. We're below Gaussian. We're below Ikomoku as well, I assume. Yeah, so not looking too good. But what we can see is that in line with the support line, we're also bouncing off currently the July to May bottom. And so would I be surprised if we see a bounce on H-bar? Not really. Where would I think that bounce is going to go to? I would think if we see a bounce on H-bar, it's going to come up to the 50-day SMA, and that's going to be by the time we get there at around 26 cents. I think I probably had the same verdict if I looked at it the other day, although I didn't have this yellow support line. I didn't identify that to back it up, but I'm looking at 26 cents for H-bar. Could you do an update on Digibyte, please? How do you feel about it going to the top 100 and now being 150 on the charts? I did Digibyte recently, but we'll look at it again briefly for you. How do I feel about it going top 100 and then, what is the Digibyte? DGB, that's right. So it went to top 100, you're right. It went to the 90s, I think, or maybe even the 70s. And then it kind of depreciated rapidly and we had a bit of a crash there for Digibyte down below. And that's happened with a lot of altcoins, right? That's not just Digibyte. Theta is a great example. I love Theta. And Theta managed to get, I think, top 15 and then it depreciated all the way down. I think it's like top 50th now. So it happens all the time. But as for Digibyte and why that happened for Digibyte, well, it's pretty clear, right? Digibyte is a Bitcoin rival, and this is how I think of it. Digibyte is a Bitcoin rival, okay? Bitcoin rivals survive in a time in which Bitcoin rivals are the center of attention, okay? When Bitcoin is doing very well, Bitcoin rivals will always exist because they're claiming to be the next Bitcoin, and that is a natural marketing effect. When Bitcoin is not doing well, and it didn't do well in the 2021 bull market, it just ranged, and especially in the recent months, it hasn't been doing well, there is not much interest in Bitcoin rivals because people see Bitcoin as a failure. It's going down. Okay, and that's why DigiByte has failed, because a lot of people who were previously interested in Bitcoin rivals like DigiByte realized, hey, I don't like Bitcoin anymore because it lost me money, and they don't like DigiByte anymore either. Okay, but DigiByte very clearly dropped below support here at around 30 cents, and the next support zone, as I've looked at before, is 21 cents. We've actually just reached that recently, and so we are on basically the bear market support for DigiByte, and that means we're at the bottom. We're basically the lowest we can go, but before I say we're the lowest we can go, we can definitely go lower, right? In a bear market, we can definitely go lower. I can assure you of that. And so I wouldn't be looking at betting into DigiByte right now. It looks incredibly weak. But do I think DigiByte will stick around? Yeah, for sure. I think it's been around since like 2014, 2013. It's got that longevity. But right now, it just hasn't been the cycle for DigiByte because we really needed that Bitcoin strength in order for DigiByte to thrive. It is a Bitcoin rival. If there's no Bitcoin strength, people don't care about Bitcoin rivals. So look, in the future, will it come back? For sure. And I will continue doing videos on DigiByte. But as of right now, I'm not interested in it. Amazing content. Thanks for covering, Rose. No worries, mate. Have you heard about Texas, Arizona accepting Bitcoin as legal tender? One of the candidates of Texas governor. I don't think they're accepting it. I think they've proposed a bill in order to accept it. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure if they're accepting it, that would be, everywhere. I think they've proposed a bill, and so it's not going to happen yet. I think it has to be voted upon. Good info. Thank you for answering, mate. No worries. Which alts you think will survive this cycle? Well, I think that the altcoins related to emerging topics like metaverse coins will survive. The only problem with metaverse coins and gaming coins, for example, is that the market is so oversaturated that only the good ones are going to survive, and that's going to mean a lot are going to need to be flushed out. DigiByte and Nano as well, and coins are pretty niche. You're not really going to hear about them too much. I think they'll survive as well because although Bitcoin has had a bad cycle, it will come back, right? If you believe in crypto, you believe Bitcoin will come back, basically. And then the need for a Bitcoin rival will come back as well. They'll survive as well, in my opinion. Ethereum's going to survive. BNB will probably survive. I don't see Binance going down anytime soon. They've got a bloody strong legal team, eh? It's hard to say exactly, but every coin that has basically a network within its own, every coin that has built-in utility will survive. You're looking at things like Shiba Inu, or however you say it. I don't even know how to say it. That's not going to survive, right? That will die out. But that said, would have said the same thing about Dogecoin in 2017. Who knows, right? But a lot of these coins that are driven about hype and not utility, they're all going to die. And a lot of these coins that potentially didn't gather the attention they needed in this cycle, didn't go to their all-time highs from previous cycles, will probably die as well. And that's why I don't like WanChain right now. I love the fundamentals of WanChain. Great fundamentals, but unfortunately, it's failed to harness the attention that it did in 2017. And what this means, if we go to WanChain quickly, what this means is that the majority of people that heard about WanChain in 2018 didn't hear about it in this cycle. And that means if they didn't hear about it in this cycle, it's going to be another 3 years into the next bull market where they might be hearing about it. And but by that point, it's been 8 years since they've heard about WanChain. And so you're not going to have a strong community at that point, But I do love the fundamentals for WanChain, but it's dropped below critical support now. I don't know what to say about it. Fundamentally, it's great. In terms of marketing, they've failed miserably. It's hard to say which altcoins exactly are going to survive because I'm not, first and foremost, I'm a trader. I'm not a fundamental analyst, right? I've given you my general insight on it, but we have to see, right? It really depends on how the world progresses as well, because we have to remember the market's going to go down for a little bit. The next bull market, right? The next full-blown bull market, according to the trend, is going to be like, 2024, 2025? And so, the market's going to go up until that point because we usually see 1 year of bear market and then 3 years of upwards, right? The market's going to go up, but it's not going to be a full-blown bull market, and hence most of the interest is going to be in the top coins. So, do you watch Invest Answers? No, I don't. What are your thoughts on DOT fundamentals? Do you hold any LT? No. I don't want to look into DOT fundamentals too much. DOT is a very complicated coin, and I think DOT, just first and foremost, before we even get into the fundamentals, I think, it's great, right? But I'll lose a lot of viewers if I talk about it because people don't understand it, right? The problem with DOT is that the fundamentals are very complicated. And you might not think they are because you're an investor in DOT and you like DOT and you're potentially, pretty intelligent person. But for an average investor, if you can't explain something to an infant child, not an infant, if you can't explain something to a toddler, for example, explain something to your little brother or to your girlfriend who's not interested in cryptocurrency, she hasn't been in the market, in very simple terms to which they understand it, you probably shouldn't invest in that. That's caused a lot of problems in crypto, right? People will invest in things that they think are so great, but they forget how complicated they are. And, people are very, very short, they have very short time, patience, right? And hence they want to understand things very, very quickly. If they can't understand it very, very quickly, they're not going to put in an effort, and hence they're not going to invest in it. Any hope left for Telcoin? Telcoin, that's an interesting one. TelUSD. Telcoin, wow, yeah. I like Telcoin. I think it's an interesting concept. Whether I think it will be around for the long run, anyone's guess, right? It's an interesting concept though, for sure. It's basically advocating for, not everyone has access to a bank, but everyone has access to a mobile phone, and hence we should do, crypto and kind of personal finance through a mobile phone. I think most of the world has access to a mobile phone, even in third world countries. You'd be surprised to believe. I mean, I've been to India before, and it's crazy, even in the most poverty-stricken suburbs of India, everyone has a cell phone, and that's because cell phones are incredibly cheap. But Telcoin itself, TA, if you want fundamentals in Telcoin, go back to one of my videos on Telcoin. I spoke about it extensively back in the day a few months ago. But I think I spoke about it just before this massive bounce out of this triangle here, and then I spoke about it again as this channel was happening, and I kind of said, hey, it's not looking good anymore. That's probably why the channel's there. But we broke out of this triangle formation, broke to the downside, and we're testing support. That's all I can really say about it. Now, with coins like Telcoin, the problem with Telcoin isn't the fundamentals, it's not the TA, it's the fact that it's not available on many exchanges. At Telcoin, you can only buy it on KuCoin, I'm pretty sure. I don't think there's any Binance, I don't think there's any Coinbase. And so, first of all, and this is a big problem with a lot of coins, there's a lack of accessibility. If I can't buy a coin on an exchange that I don't have, I'm probably not going to buy the coin. I'll just look for one of the other thousands of coins that I can buy, Telcoin really needs to work on that. They really need to get themselves out there a bit more. But we're on POC right now. We're on support. The lowest we can go on Telcoin in the immediate short term is probably 50 cents. We'll probably swing back up to around 90 cents at some point and just test that again. But I can't really give you too much information on that, unfortunately. Make this part about BTC a separate video later, mate. Pure gold. Yeah, for sure. For those of you who don't know, I turn all of my kind of lives, well, not all of them, but if I'm analyzing Ethereum, for example, in a live stream, I'll turn it into a video later and post it up, just so people who didn't see the live stream have the opportunity to watch that. And I know that not many people are going to watch the full replay of the live stream and filter through an hour worth of information, so it's better to post it as a separate video. Can you do a TV on Nervous? You're going to have to give me the ticker for that, mate. I'll see if I can find it, but I'm not familiar with that coin, so I don't have the ticker for it. Thanks. All right, no worries. We've ran out of comments here, so before I even get into anything else, before I get into Ethereum, go ahead and type any more questions you might have, any more altcoins you want analyzed, anything in general. I'm happy to answer as much as I can here. But while you guys are doing that, let's talk about Ethereum, and then we'll swing back to the comments one more time, and then we might look at a few more other things here, and then I'll read some more comments, because this is all about me answering your questions. I love answering your questions. It builds the community closer, and it also just gives me something to talk about, because there's not really too much I can talk about here for just a couple hours flat. And I would like to grow these live streams to go for a bit longer, but ultimately I just run out of content, right? That's why I'm asking for your suggestions here. So looking at Ethereum on the daily, really not much have changed here from the other day. We looked at it, to be honest, and there's not really too much to talk about. I don't know why these lines are here. I'm going to move those. And what I kind of concluded from the last video I did on Ethereum is basically what I think is going to happen with Ethereum, and I've said previously 1,700. I think Ethereum has a real chance of going down actually as low as 1,200. Okay, 1,200, when we look at that, or even 1,400, right? Because we're looking at 1,400, we're probably going to look at the previous all-time high. And I think that Ethereum, yeah, as I said, has a real chance of testing that previous all-time high at 1,400. And so what I would say with Ethereum is that we're looking at that spot, the sweet spot, I would call it, between 1,700, the bottom of this support, and 1,400, the previous all-time high, as the area in which Ethereum's going to retrace to. Now, looking at a logical kind of extrapolation of data, if Bitcoin's going to drop from 37k to around 22k, where it's going to reach for 200, that's going to be a drop of around, let's say 40%. I'm going to do it off the top of my head. Let's say 40%. If Bitcoin drops 40%, Ethereum's probably going to drop a bit more than that, probably looking at, well, at least here 43% from the current prices. And so we're looking at 1,400 for sure on Ethereum. Now, do I think it will drop below that? Even though Ethereum's meant to drop more than Bitcoin, I don't think it's going to drop below previous all-time highs simply due to the amount of buying interest that's going to be in that region. Now, it could wick below it, and hence we could actually see more than a 43% drop. We could see something like this, a wick below it to like 1,200, and hence that classifies as a 51% drop, and that kind of accounts for Ethereum dropping more than Bitcoin. But as for, in general on a macro scale, I think 1,400 will be the bottom. 1,400 to 1,700 will be the bottom. It just really depends on when we reach the bottom for Bitcoin, because obviously the higher Bitcoin bottoms out, if it bottoms out in November, it's going to reach the bottom at like 25k. And so Ethereum's going to drop a lot less as well. If we reach the bottom in March, that's only a month away, it's going to reach the bottom and we're probably going to go all the way down to 1,400. So based off, what I'm looking at here and just in general, Ethereum doesn't look good, right? We can just go over everything here. It's dropped below all of this stuff. Gaussian channel, bull market support band, Ichimoku cloud, 50, 200, it's all gone. And I've said before, on my last time I looked at Ethereum, what I did say was this. I'd said that, hey, Ethereum is seeing a bullish back decross. It's seeing the beginning of a bullish divergence, hasn't fully formed it yet. But what I think is going to happen, this is what I said last time, let me just clarify it again. What I said last time, what I think is going to happen is Ethereum is going to come back up, and it was sitting at around 2,300, 2,200. It's going to come back up. It's going to retest at least 2,600, maybe even 3,000, right? On a dead cat bounce for Bitcoin to 40k. And then it's going to start deteriorating down to the support and bottom out. Okay, that's what I thought was going to happen for Bitcoin. Ethereum, I think we're going to see one last bounce further than we've already seen. And will I be confident in jumping into that bounce? As I've said, no, I'm not jumping into anything. I am waiting for the bottom on Bitcoin. Okay, I'm waiting for the bottom because I honestly don't think it's that far away. I think at most it will be November. And for me, November's not a long time. I can focus on growing with crypto. I can focus on this community. And ultimately, I know that buying the bear market bottom is going to set you up for the years ahead. And will I take the occasional trade? For sure, especially in microcap coins, which I've been getting into recently. And microcap coins, by the way, very volatile. And even taking out the TA, fundamentally, very dangerous coins. But the thing is, the reason why I like them is because they're not correlated to what the market's doing. They're just solo. And so it's basically like trading anything. I've also been trading a few stocks, or looking to trade a few stocks as well, back to my roots, while this market is kind of sorting itself out, and I'll come back when the bottom is in. But by come back, I mean come back with investments. And ultimately, what I'm going to be looking to do when the bottom does come in is I'm going to buy a truckload of Bitcoin, and I'm going to select maybe 5 or 6 altcoins to take a little wager with. And I'll obviously give you guys that information when the time comes, because I'm looking forward to brushing up on my fundamental analysis. I think when you get into a bull market on Bitcoin and cryptocurrency, you get into the habit of putting fundamental analysis aside and stop hunting for good projects and just hunting for good TA. Now, the bear market is very different. TA doesn't really matter too much in a full bear market because everything looks trash, right? Nothing looks good. And so you want to be looking at the fundamentals a bit more. And I'm excited to start doing that. Okay, because I need to work in that fundamental analysis a bit more, get it brushed up again, and I hope that I can find some good coins that will be the gems for the next cycle. I'm looking forward to it. Can you look at Luna? Yeah, we'll look at Luna. All right, so Luna, Terra Luna, interesting coin. I called this coin back in July, and when we were about this region down here, I called it, I think, at $8 to $9. One of my biggest trades of 2021 that we've posted to the Wolves of Crypto. And you can see I've still probably got the writing down here by the breakout. Yeah, so bought the breakout there around $8. Great trade we made there on Terra Luna. That was probably a gain. Let's just measure it roughly. Gain of around 13 to 14x on Terra Luna. So good job there, Wolfpack, if you were around. Problem is, not many people were around back then. Let me know if you were around in July on Wolves of Crypto. I'm interested to see if anyone here would have been around from that point. But Terra is very similar to Rose, actually. And let's just delete some of this stuff because it's not really relevant anymore. Terra is very similar to Rose, in which it's had the breakout and it's formed an uptrending line. Okay, and that uptrending line, similar to Rose, is being tested right now. Let me just straighten this up. It's being tested right now. In fact, we are right on top of that line right now. So essentially what I'm saying about Luna, I should call it Luna, is that it is on the edge, the knife's edge. It is on the edge of a cliff, sitting there right now at 50 USD. 50 USD is a psychological support as well. It's also acted as support on a few regions during this uptrend. So let's look at that. Let's draw a horizontal line. 50 USD is active as support in a few regions during this uptrend, and hence it is an area in which we could be seeing some buying pressure. Okay, looking at that, and especially considering Bitcoin might be coming in for a dead cat bounce, Luna could definitely bounce up, and let's say it bounces up to the 50, which is the base bounce level for medium-term bounces. 50 is going to swing down here. We're probably going to be looking at, if we did bounce, a swing to around 66 USD, somewhere in that region on Terra. Now, let's look at Luna, Let's look at the MACD and RSI. My RSI is not showing us any bullish divergence, which is bad. In fact, it's showing us a bearish divergence on this long-term trend. MACD's a while from crossing as well, and so we're not looking too likely to do that. But what I can say about Luna is volume is decreasing in the downtrend. Terrible to see. We're on this major support. In fact, this candle is going to close in 20 seconds. Let's just see where that closes here. It will be interesting to see if we hold this line. We've got 10 seconds on that close. I didn't realize the daily close was closing right now. But yeah, that is the line we need to be holding at 50 USD. If we lose that, I can say with quite a big amount of certainty that we're going to be trending downwards to the next support, which is probably going to be sitting around 37. And then below that, we're still looking at probably 22. So the problem with something rising so quickly like Luna has done is that it drops very quickly as well, because it hasn't had time to build up that support. So what you can see is pretty interesting, right? We've actually closed slightly above the line or on the line, and we've opened the candle below the line. Now that might be a problem with how I've drawn it. Let me just try and straighten it up. So I suppose it's how you draw it as well, but essentially 50 USD is what you should be looking at for Luna. I think that this is way too close to call. We do have support from a 200-day at 45 USD, but essentially we are on a knife's edge on Luna, in which we could be swinging up to 66 one last time, okay, and then crashing down below, or we could just crash below right now. But I think that, on a longer term scale, this thing is going to need some serious correcting because it is still in the sky, right? Can you look at Luna? Yes, I already did that. Can we look at DAG and EWT? We'll look at DAG. Choose one of those ones. Constellation. Yeah. Constellation's a big talk that's been going on, especially when I had this rally. I remember everyone talking about Constellation. And I think I might have done a video on it. I can't really remember. But this is interesting. We're seeing a double bottom in the sky. A double bottom in the sky. Again, MACD's not really looking too great. RSI divergence playing. If we were to drop a little bit further down, we see bullish RSI divergence, and we're seeing a double bottom here at this region around 14 cents. So look, off the bat, and I've got a pretty good indicator of whether, not an indicator, pretty good instinct of whether a coin looks good or not just straight away by looking at it, because for structure, you get used to it once you've been trading for a while. You get used to what structure's good, what structure's bad, and this is a pretty good structure, okay? What you usually see on coins that jump up all the way to the sky like this, 45 cents, and then retrace down slowly, is bounces along the way. We've seen a bounce here. We've seen a bounce here, and we'll probably see another bounce here, to be honest. Especially considering how Bitcoin looks right now, we'll probably see another bounce here. Let's look at the indicators. Bull market support band slightly above us, and so the natural target for this bounce, let me just look at a few more things before I say it. The natural target for this bounce is going to be the bull market support band, which is joining up right now with the 50-day SMA. So the bull market support band is coming down. The 21-week EMA is coming down. It's currently at 19 cents. By the time we get there, it will probably be trending with the 50-day, which is currently at 17 cents. And so I think we will bounce up to around that 17 to 18 cent region, which is a bounce of around, well, let's see, I think more than 10%, probably 15%, 11% on at Constellation. I don't think the full double bottom will take place. I think the highest we could possibly go is this kind of area of contention on the volume profile around 20. But regardless of where it actually goes, I think we'll see a little bounce off of this. We'll form a little double bottom, and ultimately it will be a massive bull trap where everyone's thinking, hey, it's a double bottom, we've got to get back in, and everyone's expecting a massive cup. But I think that we'll ultimately see a little bounce and then a drop below. All right, that's what I think is going to happen with Constellation. What goes up has to come down, but it comes down like a tennis ball bouncing to the ground, right? It doesn't come down like a rock, right? Tennis balls, they drop, right? They bounce, they start off high, they go lower, lower, lower each bounce, and they end up flattening out, right? That's going to happen with Constellation. That happens with all the coins that jump up to the sky, including things like Shiba, right? They all end up like a tennis ball, not like a rock. It's very rare for a coin to end up like a rock. Weird analogy, but it makes sense. So we looked at DAG. Could you do a quick fundamental analysis on Super Launch? No, I'm not going to do any fundamental analysis on any coin here in this live stream. Fundamental is a very difficult one because you need to actually take an extensive look, like read the white paper in order to analyze it fully. And so looking at it quickly is not really going to do much. When do you think the correlation between Bitcoin and NASDAQ will break? I mentioned this in the video I did yesterday. Now, I mentioned a video yesterday, the biggest concern I have, or the biggest problem I have with cryptocurrency right now, is the correlation between Bitcoin and other financial markets, crypto and other financial markets, right? And I kind of referenced the fact that this correlation is happening because Bitcoin and cryptocurrency, the volatility Bitcoin and cryptocurrency has, encourages traders, not investors, okay? And when you get an abundance of traders, you get an abundance of people trying to find out what's going to happen in the next short-term move. And then you get an abundance of people looking at things like the pre-market open on the S&P 500 and the NASDAQ and trading Bitcoin because of that happening. So traders equals volatility, and volatility equals less chance of being adopted. That's the biggest problem with cryptocurrency right now. So when do I think that's going to break? There's no time frame. What I can say, though, is that the more cryptocurrency is adopted, the less traders are going to be encouraged to trade crypto because crypto is going to have a lower volatility, and the more adoption and long-term investors is going to happen, right? Because you need long-term investors for adoption to happen. You don't need traders. Traders doesn't matter, right? Traders mean nothing. They're just in there for the money, just like me, right? I believe in the Bitcoin fundamentals. I've got long-term Bitcoin investments, but in terms of crypto as a whole, I would classify myself as a trader, right? I'm here for the profits. And so, looking at it from that perspective, a trader isn't necessarily going to help adoption. An investor is going to help adoption because institutions and countries and big corporations, they need to see longevity and they need to see, clear structure, and they don't need to see volatile 20% swings on a daily basis. And so in order for an asset to progress and be adopted, you need investors. And so when do I think that's going to happen? As I've said, hard to say, but definitely it will happen in the future in the next couple of cycles, because the more the volatility comes down, especially on Bitcoin and the bigger assets, the more long-term investors there will be and the less correlation we'll have to the stock market. What are your thoughts on DOT right now? Someone asked for a DOT fundamental analysis before. I can't give that to you. It's too complicated to kind of look into on a live stream here. But in terms of the TA, I looked at this before, and I've already drawn up what I've said. So go ahead, my last live stream, I looked at DOT, and as you can see this line, I've concluded that I think it will come back up to 22 before dropping below this blew up training support. So go ahead and check that one out. And before this, by the way, I'd just like to mention, quick little advertising here. I was trading DOT within this triangle. I said, hey, if we drop below the triangle, we're going straight to the blue line. That happened and played out within 3 days. So good job there for the little short position if some of you took it. Can you look at Phantom? I'll look at Phantom, yeah. And then we've got an interesting question up next, which is, is the lengthening cycle theory still prominent, or does it hold any credibility? And we'll look at that in a second. I like that question. I'm kind of intrigued as to how I'm going to answer that. I'm thinking about it in the back of my head here. But looking at Phantom, I think we already did this actually, but Phantom's interesting, right? It's seeing, just like a lot of these coins right now, it's seeing a long-term bearish divergence. If we went up, we'd see it even clearer. It's technically not a bearish divergence anymore because we failed to make new highs, but it is nevertheless would be a bearish divergence, and it kind of indicates weakness here on Phantom. And looking at volume's decreasing, kind of. It's in this initial spikes here back in September, very, very high volume. It's come down. There's less interest in buying this right now, naturally, because the market is dropping. And looking at, throughout the entirety of 2021, looks very similar to Rose and to another coin that we looked at previously that I can't remember the name of. But, a lot of these coins are Luna. That was it, Luna. Look the same. They have these very similar 2021 structures where they kind of bounce around and then they see a bottom out in July and then they just go like that, right? Very similar, and all of the conclusions on these coins are very similar as well, okay? The fact of the matter is the trend is unsustainable. Now, I could draw a line. Could draw something like that. You could draw it multiple different ways, but you could even make it up trending like that slightly and something like that. It wouldn't be as clear on Phantom as it would be in other coins. You could even do something like this, right? Where you do a line like that through that correction there. And that would be kind of prominent. I'd be looking at that line there, that yellow line. Now, before I even say anything here, I want to give you a quick lesson on TA. When you look at a coin for the first time, and the reason why I'm able to analyze these coins just by looking at them for like 2 seconds is because all I am looking for is the critical stuff, okay? I'm not looking at doing a 15-minute video on these coins, giving you precise price predictions, what's going to happen next week, next month, next year. Drop some water there. What I'm looking at is giving you the fundamentals because I'm answering them very quickly. Okay, and what I look at when I'm looking at the very, very fundamental technical analysis, I'm looking at where the uptrending support is or where the downtrending support is and where the major support is, and then I'm drawing conclusions based off that. So looking at where the major support is, now that we've identified that line, the major support is probably going to be on that line. And that's going to be coming from the 2021 top all the way through to probably, I don't know, there's a big block here. I reckon that would classify as 2 support zones. But what I would say is that we have support at this 2021 block. There's not a very clear thing here on Phantom because it's moved very quickly. And that's at around $1, and that's going to be a psychological resistance. And then I also say we have some support being built in this region where this previous bottom was in December. And that's going to be somewhere in that block there, a bit of a wide range between $1.60 and $1.25. So that's where I'd say the support is. If I wanted to even narrow it down a little bit further, I could bring it up to these wicks to the downside during late 2021 and do something like that. Okay, and that would suggest that right now what we've done on Phantom is we've come down, we've wicked to the downside, we've tested that support, come back up all the way up to around $2.50 after a test of $1.75, and now we're ranging. And now, due to the fact that we've already had that bounce, I don't think Phantom is going to see another bounce. I think it will depreciate until we see this support being tested. Now, Bitcoin could bounce a little bit, and when Bitcoin bounces, the money's going to flow into coins that look strong. Phantom doesn't look strong. Phantom looks like it's seen the bounce already, and it looks like it's on its way down to this yellow line for a test, possibly even this green box and yellow line for a test, and then we can see what's going to happen. But ultimately, I think Phantom's going to retrace down to this line. Nothing's really happening on RSI, nothing's happening on MACD. Bull market support band is currently holding for support. That's good to see, okay? Ikomoku Cloud is kind of holding for support as well right now. 50 and 200, there, 50 is a test of resistance, and so we're in a very, very indecisive position from a daily chart. Bull market support band is one of the biggest support zones you're going to see on the daily chart or the weekly chart. It is a weekly time frame, so looking at that, we are holding that right now, and that's great to see. But I think at the very most, we're going to see a little bit of chop around that, and then a drop down to this yellow line. I don't think we're going to see another bounce. I think there's many, many better coins out there for people to be trading, and hence Phantom's not going to get that attention. Like even Luna looks better, but Phantom, who knows, man? Like it could bounce a little bit. I mean, if we're just taking that scenario, if you think it's going to see a bounce, I'd say if it does bounce, it'll probably reject at $2.50. There's a bit of resistance there. I don't see it happening though. Does lengthening cycles theory hold any credence? Well, look, how am I going to answer this? I've done a video about this before, okay? I feel like I've done a video about a lot before, but what I'm going to flock to is this chart here. That is what I'm going to flock to, this chart, and you would have seen it earlier in the live stream if you were here. And I would say that lengthening cycles is a very interesting topic. I would say it's too early to disprove it, but it's also too early to prove it. Benjamin Cohen would disagree. Yeah, probably if you even mention the word lengthening cycles in your dialogue, you probably listen to Benjamin Cohen. And although I agree with some of his ideas, I think that he is fundamentally missing a point here on Bitcoin. I would say that the 4-year cycle trend is more prominent than the lengthening cycles trend. Do I think Bitcoin is lengthening from the halving? Yes. Do I think it's actually having a substantial effect in which he says things like, the bull market's going to top out in 2023. I seriously just don't see it happening. And I also don't see how you could still classify the current price action as a bull market. I think we're in a bear market very clearly here. And so if you agree that we're in a bear market, if you agree that Bitcoin topped out in November, you would be inclined to believe in the 4-year cycle theory, because the 4-year cycle theory has played out quite perfectly here. This is my interpretation of the 4-year cycle theory on Bitcoin. Okay? The 4-year cycle theory is basically a trend in which we're repeating certain timeframes over and over again. Now, obviously, as diminishing returns take place, you would be not illogical to believe that lengthening cycles would take place, because a move's going to take longer to play out and it's going to be less volatile. I don't think that's the case. I think it would be less volatile. I believe in diminishing returns, but I don't necessarily believe in lengthening cycles. So let me say that again. I believe in diminishing returns. I believe that the returns on each move is going to get lower and lower and lower as time goes on, but I don't believe those moves are going to be lengthened. I think they're going to stay roughly the same length and they're going to be diminished. Now, I would argue that lengthening cycles has already been disproven to a certain extent in this cycle. And that's based off this trend here. It's very preliminary. It's not very concrete, and so I'm not 100% confident saying it, but I would say. Now, before I even get started, this whole area here, this all happened before the halving. It doesn't even count as a cycle, and so I'm discounting that completely. The halving happened before the 2013 cycle in 2012. Okay, so this was the first cycle we saw the halving. What we have seen on Bitcoin is 1,400 days from the 2013 top to the 2017 top, 1,400 days from the 2017 top to the 2021 top, 1,400 days between the 2015 bottom and the 2018 bottom. Okay, and then on top of that, we've seen 1,064 days between the bottom to the top and the bottom to the top. a very clear trend of 1,400 and a very clear trend of the exact number 1,064. I would say that this is too concise to be a coincidence. Okay, I don't think this is coincidence. I think it's too precise to be a coincidence. And hence, if this trend was to continue, which is debatable itself, right? We would be bottoming out in November, and then the next bull market top would come in October 2025, if that trend continues. Now, the problem is, I don't even necessarily agree with that assumption, because the drop is happening so much faster than we would have expected it, that I think the bottom will come in quite a lot sooner than November. I'm not discounting it, but I think it's going to happen sooner than November. November's 10 months away, okay? Or 9 months, depending on how you look at it. So, for us to go 9 months further without seeing a bottom on Bitcoin, it's a bit of a stretch. And so if we bottom out before that, this all could be invalidated, or it could just be used as, this being in the invalidation. We could see, hey, a massive stock market correction, and we invalidate this one point but continue with this trend. But, it's hard to say, but I would say that at this point, as we have not found the bottom yet, the 4-year cycle holds more legitimacy than lengthening cycles at this point. But again, when it comes to the questions of lengthening cycles and 4-year cycle, it depends on your interpretation of it. Depends how you look at it. When I think of lengthening cycles, I think of cycles lengthening. It's very simple. I don't see that right now. From bottom to bottom, 1,064 days on both cycles, right? I don't see that right now. 1,400 keeps coming up 3 times in a row. I don't see that right now, So I would say it hasn't lengthened yet. Could happen in the future. Who knows? What are your thoughts on Matic on the daily? I looked at Matic in the last live stream, I think, mate, so go ahead and check that one out. Would you ever do fundamental analysis videos in the future? Yes, I would. And the place in which I'd be doing that would be in the bear market, because as I've said before, when that bear market comes, when the bottom comes in, I will be looking at picking up a bucket load of Bitcoin, but also a few altcoins as a little speculative bet for the next bull market. And so when that comes, I'll be choosing those altcoins carefully based on the current market environment, and I'll be giving you an explanation on YouTube and on live streams as to why I've chosen those altcoins and what I like about them. I did that in 2018 as well, but I didn't have a YouTube channel at that point. CKB, I don't know what that is. Let's check it out. Xbox sent me a message. Cool. CKB, have I looked at this before? I don't know, probably not. So looking at CKB, now again, I don't know much about the fundamentals here. It looks very choppy. Okay, that's because we're on logarithmic, right? So it looks okay, right? Just straight off the bat, it looks okay. Let's draw the trend line here and see if that's holding up right now. It is holding up. Trend line's holding up, and so depending on how you draw it, could be something like that. Very unsupported trend lines. Only had 2 retests here, and so I think we could come further down here on CKB. I think this wick might have been intended to be a test of a trend line, and so we're in the bounce right now, and we're in the bounce from around 12 cents to 15 cents. Looking at the 50 and 200, they're coming in for a bearish MACD cross. Not a MACD cross, sorry. I've been speaking for too long. A bearish death cross, between the 50 and 200, and so that's negative. When you see that happen, you usually see depreciation. We saw it here in July. We had that death cross. We went from around 12 cents all the way down to around 7 cents, so almost a 50% depreciation in price. I think when that death cross happens, I think that ultimately we will drop below this yellow trend line, and we will head down towards probably the bear market prices at around 5 cents, right? Even though we didn't really have a bear market on this coin. But looking at volume, just to give you a little bit more of an insight, very low volume. Volume's decreasing in the uptrend. We're below all that. We're probably below everything at this point, right? Below the bull market support band. Yeah, doesn't look good. I don't think there's really much hope for this coin here. And I think, I haven't looked at the fundamentals, but I think given the lifespan, it's only been around for one cycle. It needs more time to build a strong community. It might already have it, but on a longer term scale, we've got not very good stuff playing. We've got a MACD cross coming in, but I don't see anything that's jumping out to me, and hence I'm not going to make a very strong prediction for it. Polygon, please. Well, 2 people have asked for Matic now, so let's just look at it. Right, we did it in the last one, but we'll look at it again, and we'll just go over what we kind of found out from that. Looks like we don't have the chart. Surely I saved this. I should have a chart for Matic. Okay, I do. It's from a while ago, though. Yeah, okay. Bullish MACD cross coming in. RSI is trending upwards. Good to see. Bull market support bands above us. Unfortunately, we've rejected off of that now. That's a big thing. MACD... Ikomoku were below that as well. looking at volume profile, we're on the POC right now. We've got a lot of support. So first and foremost, just looking at volume profile and looking at the price action for Matic, if we do drop and if we go downwards, the target would be, based off just what I have here already, $1, which is the major psychological support. Okay. Now the problem is with Matic, it's not a problem actually, it's kind of good, right? Is if we do drop down, it will be a slow chop to the downside. It won't be a fast drop. It will be slow, right? We didn't have slow up here. Okay, when we dropped here, we didn't have slow. You might ask, why wasn't it slow there? If you're going to say it's going to be slow now, why wasn't it slow there? That's because we didn't have much support in that region in which we were dropping, right? Now, as we enter this major area of historical contention, we're entering a major support block at the same time. So if we do drop now, we're holding with 200 right now. If we do drop to the $1 region, it's going to be slow. But ultimately, yeah, I think we're going to end up at $1. I think that's probably, that could be a chance. Matic, I think Matic will stick around, right? Matic could have a chance of bottoming out. Probably, we're looking at probably that green box down there around 57 cents all the way to 75 cents. That will probably be the bear market bottom. And if that is the case, we'll probably hold some of the macro structure and we'll remain and we can bounce off that for the next bull market. But, $1 is a major psychological support. Right now, we're below resistance, below $1.74, which is resistance, and we're below the bull market support band. And so in the immediate short term, I think a rejection is going to be happening here on Matic. I think a rejection is going to be happening. Hey man, check out USDT D on the 4 hour. Yeah, so I think you're probably referring to how the USD is performing right now. It's performing well, right? Very, very well. I mean, this is the USD on the AUD pair. People don't care about that though because you're not from Australia. Let's look at the DYDX. That is not the right coin. DXY, sorry. DXY. I've got that in my head because I was looking at it earlier today. DXY is basically a chart that is looking at the strength of the USD in relation to other currencies, right? Other world currencies, global currencies. And so the top currencies, that is. So, looking at this, what we can notice is that when this thing is in a downwards trend, that means that cryptocurrency is going to have some strength. When it's trending upwards, that means we're probably going to have a lack of strength on cryptocurrency. Okay, you can see that. 1 second, sorry. Let me just identify some trends here. Yeah, so what you can see just straight off the bat, which is interesting, is that during the last bear market, which happened from 2018 all the way through to 2020, this was trending upwards slowly. And that kind of supports what I just said. When you see the DXY trending upwards, you see a lack of strength on cryptocurrency. When that was trending upwards, we had the bear market. When it started trending downwards in May 2020, when we saw the halving, that's when crypto started going up. This thing crashed. Crypto went crazy. Okay? And you'll notice that the majority of strength on cryptocurrency ended in May. May is when we had the sharp correction to the downside. That is also when we bottomed out on the DXY. So we started trending upwards, crypto started losing strength, and the dollar started gaining value against other currencies. And so right now we are in a strong upwards trend. We have, however, just entered a major resistance zone, and so we could actually reject before we get to around 97. If we get above 97, if we get above this region, we're going to be trending upwards even further, and we're probably going to do something like this. And that would mean that would really consolidate the bear market in Bitcoin and cryptocurrency, and we'll probably just trend downwards for a long period of time. Not trend downwards, but just trend sideways and maybe slightly upwards, but we wouldn't see any major strength. So one of the problems with this cycle as well, on Bitcoin and crypto, is that the DXY has shown amazing strength, not like we saw in the last cycles. In the last cycle, in 2017, in the last cycle, we can see that it topped out in December 2016. Bitcoin started moving up when this topped out, okay? It went downwards all the way into early 2018. You'll notice that in the last cycle, Bitcoin topped out in December 2018. Altcoins topped out in January. January 2018 was in this circle here, okay? As soon as Bitcoin and cryptocurrency topped out, they started moving upwards, okay? Bitcoin basically topped out in May. All right. I mean, we didn't really move too far up in November, and we've started moving upwards from that point. So that is another indicator that a bear market is coming. The DXY is showing strength, and Bitcoin is showing weakness. It's just how it works, right? I assume that's what you meant. Can you look at Luna? Yeah, just scroll back at Elon Musk. I looked at that briefly before, mate. So just scroll back there. Let me look at... Did I get a super chat before? I can't actually see that one. Let me try and find this. Hold on 1 second. I think I've received a super chat that I didn't look at. It's not coming up on my screen there. All right, mate. If you've given me a super chat, if someone's given me a super chat and I haven't seen it here, it's not coming up on the screen. I think I heard the noise. Let me know in the comment here. Let me know what you said. and I'll try answer that for you. Otherwise, when this live stream ends, which I think it's going to be ending shortly, I'll look back there and I'll see what I can find, and then I'll answer it in the next live stream. Because I think I did hear the noise. Maybe I'm just wigging out. But I mean, yeah, that's what I've got to look at here today. I mean, we can look at quickly the S&P if you guys want me to. S&P, obviously, as I've said before, and as I said in my last video yesterday, where I said, hey, biggest problem with crypto is that we have correlation to the stock market, essentially. That's essentially what I said. We're looking at the S&P right now, and we can see that the S&P is downtrending, all right? And the S&P started this bearish divergence. Let's go on the daily chart. Oh, yeah, Bill Jump. Yeah, I already answered that one, mate. I must have been... I must have heard something wrong, because I thought I heard another super chat notification, but yeah, I already answered that one from old mate back there. Yeah, from Ronco. So it's all good. But S&P, we had this bearish divergence playing out since November. Coincidentally, right? It's not actually a coincidence. Hint, hint. We started this bearish divergence when Bitcoin topped. On the day Bitcoin topped, we started this bearish divergence on the stock market. And that just goes to show you the correlation here is insane. Especially looking at the DXY, before when I looked at the DXY, which is the strength of US dollar in comparison to other major currencies, the correlation there is insane as well. And so I hope this stuff starts to kind of encourage you to believe that, hey, there's a lot more to crypto than just crypto. Global markets really do affect this. And so we saw a bearish divergence, we saw a drop below support, and it's acted as resistance now, and that resistance zone's coming between 4,500 and 4,550. So if we break above 4,550, I would say that this correction is over, and we'll be trending upwards until March, until that next Federal Reserve meeting. But until that point, I think the downwards trend is still very much in place. We could actually come back up, and we could retest the bottom here, or could even retest 4,500 itself. But I think that bearish divergence is very prominent. We're going to see a downwards trend here on the S&P 500. We're probably closing the weekly candle very soon. Weekly candle is going to be closing very soon, and for that reason, in fact, it's already closed, right? Yeah, because it closes on Friday. It's already closed, and so what we've seen here is actually a bounce off of the 50-week, which is good. It's good to see. Long week to the downside, bounce off the 50-week, and this has happened because the Federal Reserve have maintained current interest rates. They haven't increased them yet, and so we're probably going to see some relief in the stock market, which might actually lead to a bit of Bitcoin relief, and it might actually encourage the orange scenario that I have here to play out, in which we see a dead cat bounce before dropping down further. Okay, so that is very likely at this point. I wouldn't bet on it happening again. I'm not betting on anything. The trend is not broken yet. The trend is still downwards, but according to what I'm seeing, that is probably got a 60 to 65% chance of playing out against the yellow scenario, which is probably less than that. At this point at least. But we have to see how the market reacts. We have low volume here. Who knows? If the stock market continues to trend upwards, we're going to see some strength on Bitcoin. That's just a fact. Do you have thoughts on the housing market? Well, I do have some thoughts on the housing market. Yeah. Look, I'm a crypto analyst. I'm not a real estate analyst, but I think that a lot applies to the housing market. I think that there's a lot of games being played in the housing market here with the institutions and corporations buying up a lot of the housing. Now, if you looked at the actual data, the vast majority of the interest in the real estate market, from what I'm seeing, at least in my area of residence, right, is from big companies and big investors, big players. And from what we know in cryptocurrency, those big players work together. And I think what's happening here in the housing market is it's not just inflation. Inflation's 7% right now. And so, or at least it is in the US. The housing market in Australia has gone up, like 40%, 30% in the last year. Massive amounts more than inflation. And so, what I think is happening here is those institutions, those corporations, those big players are working together to create excessive demand in housing. They're buying up all the housing, and when they buy up all the housing, prices go up, there's more demand, and so the retail starts jumping in, they start buying up all the housing. I think it's a bait. I think they're getting retail investors in the housing market to buy up all the housing, and then they're going to suddenly stop the demand, they're going to suddenly stop being interested in housing, and then the demand drops significantly, right? Because those are the major buyers. Retail's not the major buyers, they're the major buyers, and when that demand stops, they're going to be able to buy back those houses that they sold to the retail much cheaper. I think it's a massive bait. Obviously, that goes into a bit of a conspiracy theory, but it happens in crypto all the time. I don't see why it can't happen in housing. There is clear evidence of these big institutions, corporations, and big players working together to kind of wreck the middle class, and I think it's happening again, for sure with housing. I think that's a very strong probability. I mean, the other scenario is that inflation is way worse than the government's telling us, and that's definitely a valid scenario. I mean, used car prices have gone up like 2x in the last year. There's just lots of things going on that are very multi-layered, but I think what I've just described there is probably one of the most likely scenarios that's happening here in the housing market. You don't really see a 30 to 40% increase in housing prices in a one-year basis unless something very major is going on behind the scenes. It could be a mixture of both inflation and the fact that people are scared of, say, COVID-19, they want to get into something that's hard assets, and the fact that there's that manipulation with the institutions, the corporations, basically baiting the middle class into buying houses so they can buy them back cheaper later. If you have time, would love to on an EWT, but no stress. Thanks for asking my questions today, mate. You're a legend. I think we'll probably give it a break with the analysis today, because my voice is starting to get a little bit croaky here, mate. But go ahead and ask me in the next live stream. I'll definitely take a look at that one for you. Same thing in Canada. I'm getting this feeling too. Referring to the housing market for sure. I think something is definitely going on here behind the scenes. Institutions cashing out while milking retail before the bear winter. Yeah, definitely something going on there, mate, for sure. 26 viewers, mate. Thanks for tuning in with the live stream here. I'll come back. As I've said before here, I'm going to be doing more live streams because I see a lot of potential. I don't know why I'm holding this. This is just bubbles that I play with my dog with, but I've been holding this the whole live stream. But he likes bubbles. So, but what I think I'm going to be doing with the channel is doing a lot more live streams rather than videos, and then turning a lot of the live stream clips into videos as standalone videos. So I'll get your altcoin analyses, and kind of jump those in, cut them up into normal videos, upload them later. And so that way I'm taking out two birds with one stone. I'm doing videos and live streams at the same time. Much more efficient in terms of, what I'm doing in my personal life, and also much more helpful to you guys because you're getting your questions answered. And ultimately, as this channel grows, and I don't know how much growth is going to happen during the bear market, but as it does grow, as I put more effort into the channel, it does grow. There's going to be more questions, and so I might not be able to do this forever, and so it's definitely something to take advantage of in the meantime. But, even when I have more subscribers, I'm definitely going to try my best to answer as many questions as possible, so don't worry about that. I know a lot about property. Just sold 2 and bought 1. Very accurate answer. The crash coming in property will leave everyone with $1 million mortgage with only $100,000 value. Yeah. Well, that's great. That's great to hear my views being back up there. I don't own any property myself. Currently renting. I don't really see the point. I mean, as you guys will notice, I'm not particularly an old person, right? And so in my youth, I've decided it's not really a good idea to buy property right now in this current market. Now, as I've said, I'm not exactly the most educated person you can talk to about property, but I do speculate that something like what I just described is happening. And due to that, I'm going to be cautious here. I'm not going to buy any property in the meantime, in the short term. I also don't really see the point. Because, I want to be very confident that if I buy property, I'm going to be staying there. I don't want to be a property investor. I think that's too time consuming. I'd rather invest in cryptocurrency and financial markets. I want to be very confident if I buy property, that's where I'm going to be for like 10 to 20 years at a minimum. And I'm not very confident in that yet. I haven't necessarily decided where my long-term place of residence will be. And that's, due to the fact that I've still got a partner who's in university. And so she is going to be basically a big factor in what actually happens with us in terms of where she goes to do her master's degree, which is starting next year. And so, I'm not interested in property right now. Could I buy property? Yeah, probably could. Do I want to? No. Mostly because I'm scared of being trapped out like I think the institutions are doing to the retail right now. But it's great to see someone agree with me there. Thanks for streaming your work put up. Yeah, thanks guys for the support here. The lives are great. Keep them coming. Thanks, mate. How much percent of your portfolio do you have in locked long-term holdings? Well, I always have, as a base guideline, at any point in time, I always have 20% of my net worth in Bitcoin. Okay, 20% of my net worth in Bitcoin. And then in a general bull market, I'll have, say, maybe 50 to 75% of my net worth in circulating in investments. Okay. And so, yeah, I've sold most of my investments here. I like to say on my channel, I've sold everything. And that's because to me, emotionally, and how I connect with my investments, I've sold everything. I don't consider that 20% that I have in Bitcoin an investment. I consider that, savings. And so that's what I'm going to have for the long run. I'm always going to hold that no matter what the price is. Now, the rest I've sold because that's my trading portfolio. That's what I'm going to be trading with. And that's not locked away in cold storage, right? That's on hot wallets. And so, or, in my bank at this point. But, You know what I mean? Like, I'm always going to have a little bit in Bitcoin forever, because I know that no matter how good I am at TA, I need to, for my psychological well-being and for, for a lack of emotions getting to me, I need to have something in there at all times. I can't be sitting back on what I think is one of the best investment opportunities of the 21st century. And so, yeah, I think that's it. We've got no more comments here. That will about wrap it up. Thanks for watching, guys. Hope you enjoyed. I'll be back live streaming possibly tomorrow, maybe the day after, as it comes towards Sunday in the US time and the start of the week for Australians. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed the live stream, and I'll catch you guys